Okay,
Okay, we're recording. We're good to go. All right, so the meeting was already called to order, but now we are back at the town office building. We just went and had tours of Station 213 in South, at 148 River Road and Station 49 at 24 Old Farms Road. Next on the agenda would be just do we want to brief discussion of what we learned? I thought it was great. I really appreciate everyone, professionals taking the time to show me that, and I hadn't, good to have a picture of it in my head.
very helpful. Seems like we have an abundance of buildings, but how do you piece them all together to what we need?
Yeah,
We have an abundance of buildings that each shows its shortcomings, and each of the departments also has visions beyond just the shortcomings of what they think they need to provide the service. And I think that's even, the next vision doesn't necessarily mean the taxpayers will fund it or they'll agree with the vision, but that's part of what gets us here, I think, is the departments feel they have needs and they feel that, they want to justify those to the taxpayers. And
But it
that-
does seem like all three buildings are serving a functional purpose. It doesn't seem like we could drop one of them, consolidate two of them or anything like that. There's too much equipment to consolidate. They each have a functional use for us.
I think the way we operate, I would assume that Wellington One's gonna agree that they all have value. But that's also why you sometimes have to step out of what you've always done because it works
yeah, right.
and figure out,
Well, it works because
we make it work.
we've adapted as time goes on
Right.
in whatever way we
Right.
could. So
Yeah, we make things work.
the real question is, what would make it better and last much longer without any major investment in future years? If we're gonna do something now, then we gotta make it good for
Yeah.
quite a few decades.
Well, and I know I keep using this phrase, but it's a planning exercise, right? And the
Yeah.
planning exercise is exactly what you just said, Ralph, but it's also looking at, is the right investment finding a way to continue to operate the three at the least upfront cost? Or is the right investment realizing that limping the three along forever turns out to be a less productive way of doing it? And there's a better solution.
Somebody mentioned, well, I don't know who it was, but that thing that's going on where the Holiday Mall used to be. I was sort of surprised at just the sheer magnitude of that, even though I kind of saw it, I knew it was coming. I mean, it seems like that's a lot of additional people. Someone mentioned,
Some of the other plans that.
I'd say there's a lot.
I know.
There's another whole thing behind that, that has been approved, too, and they've been approved.
No,
They haven't been approved, I thought they were.
two of them got denied,
Oh, two got tonight,
There's another one down on South Eagle.
but I think that was,
okay.
that was a wetlands issue.
And the town council in Mansfield, I think it's on record now that they've addressed the needs for the emergency services by bolstering, their staff,
Right,
by, doing the evaluation of the facilities. And
okay,
you're probably gonna see some, new facilities over there pretty soon based on strategic location of these things.
but with that shit, with the number of people there, if something major happened, Wellington would definitely be involved. Just because there's only so
Right.
many transport vehicles available at any given time. I know that there was talk about over 50 community that they wanted to do, off of Baxter Road, and that kind of fell apart. But I mean, those things come across planning and zoning from time to time. Eventually, one of them's gonna land.
Yeah, that was a mini high rise too.
Many high rise, yeah, there's a bunch of
Is
Yukon.
that the one where the
investors.
golf course used to be?
No,
No,
this is
that's-
not-
Oh, the Wellington.
Across the Wellington
Back a
Pizza.
few years, like a 4 or 5
Across the
story.
Wellington Pizza, yeah, they wanted to do something,
Okay,
and there was that, where that Hall Hill was behind there,
Yeah,
that was gonna be another planned community and,
That was gonna be an over 55.
an over 35, yeah.
and that never happened.
Right, and then the guy died, so that kind of.
And then, across from Wellington Pizza.
Yeah, there was gonna be something. Some,
Oh,
some
the 14 acre piece,
Yeah.
behind Levante's.
yep,
That was gonna be apartments,
Yes,
and then they didn't do a wetlands investigation before they bought the property.
right, because the new owners came here and
Yes,
presented,
they did.
just conceptually to
Yeah.
planning and zoning.
yes, they did.
The same time that the Dollar General property, like the same nights the Dollar
Yeah.
General
Yeah.
property was being.
I mean, there's still opportunities, I think there's, give or take, about 100 acres left up by FedEx. That for.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Development.
Things like
No.
four, yeah.
More than that.
So,
I mean, that's where you're gonna probably see.
my point is, one of those is gonna land. I mean, eventually,
Yeah.
particularly as Mansfield grows and expands, these properties are gonna become more valuable. They're gonna have better investors that are more adequately funded, and something's gonna go.
So you have, and
There's
this
gonna be more
goes,
people in town.
this goes to that conversation that some of us have been having with the consultant who's working on the economic development study.
Yeah.
And that is, what are the things in the area that are currently driving?
Mhm.
And like Tyler said, the big pieces of land near the highway are driving potentials.
Sure.
And the economic drive of Yukon, which we already talked about, because that's affecting Route 195.
Right.
So that could be affecting that southwest corner of Wellington, Route 32, down around the Wellington Pizza area and all that, because it is adjacent. And there's the potential of water, which is a big driver, because you have water at Hall School and you have water at 195, and they can now. They could go that mile to connect, and then you'd have city water from Hall School, well, from Depot Road.
Right.
You'd have city water all the way down to 195.
When was the P O C D updated? I know the initial one that we did
2018.
many years ago, there was.
It was 2018, wasn't the
Yeah.
last one?
But it wasn't real significant.
Well, there was discussion at least about there was a lot of, not polling, but input by people on the fire service, or emergency services in general in town, I think that was part of it. So not that there was a million people at the meetings, but
Right.
I'm sure there's some language there too.
And I'm just curious, so I like, some of the. We have some major landholders in town that, what will they do with their land? 10 or 15 years, they're not gonna hold on to it forever.
Hmm.
And when those are some very nice parcels of land that when they go on the market, would be very desirable for development, so.
Yeah, the question is, what kind of development?
Well, that's it.
And that, I think that's
Don't
holding
know.
Wellington back right now, because there are large pieces on the market, have been on the market for years.
Yeah,
But there may not be, either they're too expensive or there just isn't the right demand yet figured out for them, and they're not selling.
right. But I do think that with the amount of attention being focused around the Stores campus, we're gonna get, somebody's gonna invest in that. I invest in here. Oh, I'm guessing. So, but my point then, that is part of the, as we say, planning exercise. Whatever you're building, you gotta build out for that, not just for what is happening today. And whether that, let's just, for instance, let's say something like that's going in for Holiday Mowers. Would the current inventory be adequate to reach up to, would you have to have different equipment in order to serve or to?
Well, that's a big question that Mansfield's wrestling with.
I don't know the answer, I really don't know the answer.
Responsibility. The quick answer is, I would be more concerned, not so much about an equipment inventory perspective as a manpower perspective.
Manpower.
That's the thing,
Right.
yeah, I mean, if you go, oh, we need a ladder truck, well, we're surrounded by ladder trucks, Wellington doesn't need to buy a ladder truck,
Alright,
we're surrounded by them.
yeah,
That's the
Mansfield's
mutual aid.
adding a ladder truck.
It's manpower.
All right, so,
Do you have the manpower
Right.
to be able to service these,
Good point.
that's full-time fire department, which we worry about most.
yeah, no, I'm just, yeah, just.
Well, no,
Mansfield-
Mansfield doesn't.
Mansfield has 6 people on duty, not counting the chief on a good day.
Right.
And then before vacations and whatever, they may have 5 people on duty to the entire town of Mansfield.
Except the Yukon campus, 'cause that has its own. Right.
For most part, yes.
Yeah.
Volunteers
Wouldn't that
too,
be a
though,
mutual
right?
aid?
Both
Very good.
Katie and volunteers.
Virtually no volunteers in
Yes,
Mansfield.
I think the point though is that that's
A few.
conversational for the planning exercise. You know, what are these developments meaning? And it will draw on Wellington resources some.
Yes, yeah, that's,
Even though it won't be drawing a ladder truck from Wellington, because we're not providing one, it's gonna draw fire trucks responding to alarms, it's gonna draw ambulances responding to medical calls, it's gonna be a draw.
Which is what we do now with Holland
Yep,
and
yep.
Union and
Right.
Yukon and like, I'm not sure I'm.
No, that-
And they do, they do it for us also.
Yeah.
That's.
No, I think, but to Tyler's point that, okay, so let's say something happens at UConn, if they need 3 ladder trucks, that just siphoned off all of their personnel to manage those 3 pieces of equipment probably. So now Wellington would have to
Well, what happens?
manage the other parts of that.
Yes, cause if they need 3 ladder trucks, they're gonna take the new one that Mansfield's buying, they're gonna take the Yukon ladder truck,
Right.
and they're gonna take Willimantic's ladder truck.
Yeah, right.
And that, and that's typically how it goes, those would be the ladder trucks, and then all of these departments around, Wellington, Coventry.
We'd be filling in.
And even, sometimes it's even North Wyndham, it's
Yeah.
coming back to campus,
Even-
mutual aid with fire trucks.
And then there's a trickle down effect to that, so as an
Absolutely.
example, if you have an event like that where. At UConn, where UConn's staff are occupied, you call in a aerial piece from Willimantic, so a chunk of their staff are occupied. All of these people, Willimantic, UConn, Mansfield, are all doing what they call a callback. They're bringing back people in on overtime to backfill that fire, so it's a big trickle down.
Sure. And then
It
you've got
becomes,
traffic
it
control
becomes like a
points.
magnet, it starts pulling things in.
Absolutely, you got traffic control points and all kinds.
UConn can't dump their entire firehouse at every pay person,
That's
or
right.
Wellington for a fire, they send a 3-man engine.
Yeah,
But if it continues to escalate,
right.
now there's another engine that comes, now UConn doesn't have people, so now Willimantic's going to UConn to cover UConn until their people can get there. It's a big, you know, nobody around here, when I say around here, our section of the state has 15, 16, 18 people on duty.
No.
The closest department to us for that would probably be Manchester. Norwich, I think, has 8 or 9 guys on duty at one time. Norwich,
Yeah.
yeah, you don't have.
They have several different
So
stations.
here's the, you're, you know, in 10 years, you're gonna be a full-time fire department.
It's like on television.
Mansfield's a full-time fire, but they have 6 guys, 6 people, I say guys, I mean ladies and men, 6 people on duty. They have virtually no volunteers, and that's how they're running their fire department. And when those guys get busy, there's a callback to bring more people in.
Sure.
But, you know, you have to be careful with the semantics, oh, we're gonna have a full-time fire department. It doesn't mean you're gonna be like LA County, you're not gonna have 50 people on duty in Wilmington.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
it's enough, you know, it's enough to cover the call volume that you're seeing and the trends that you're seeing
Right.
based on.
I know what it's like, I want Chicago fire.
That's 100% accurate.
Just like that.
Anyway,
So
so.
Mansfield still running volunteers?
It's very, technically, yes, but they're slim pickings.
One or two.
Single digits.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh.
Times have changed.
Again,
That's
the
all.
call volumes have increased exponentially.
Well, the time and training just must be, there's a quite a, it's like, maybe it's a volunteer, but it's a full-time commitment. If you're gonna-
Well, and if you think society changes too, if you go back again to the conversation in front of the Wellington Hill Firehouse, when these. In the middle of the 20th century, when these departments started. Rural communities were much more home-based.
Yes.
One person was working, one person was home. The person who was working often was working in town.
Yeah, right.
As a farmer or in a small shop in town, a blue collar job. You know, in Ralph's family, they were running the store,
Sure, right.
they were running a school bus, you know, they were.
Add the siren on top of it.
Right, so you had,
This was a mill back then.
you had a community base of people who didn't go far, so they were available. You also didn't have the distractions and the connection to the outside world you have now. You didn't have the internet, you didn't have cell phones, you didn't have,
Visual aid.
you had what, 2 TV stations?
Yeah.
Right, so people weren't drawn out of town or paying attention to things out of town the way they are now. And so people were just generally more community-based in their day-to-day function. So they were available to staff all these functions.
But even then, Mike, the end of World War II. In the 50s is when Wellington and Holland started to become veteran communities.
Sure, right,
There was,
the employment that happened
the
down
employment
Manchester,
was
East
back
Hartford, and,
then,
yeah.
and like the Hamilton Standard, et cetera. So we got a lot of commuters from town and out of town during the day.
But one of the big things that's occurred the last, you know, particularly the last couple of years is, you know, for many, many years, you know, you've heard us at Wilmington Hill or every volunteer, fire department in the state, it's tough to get volunteers, so that's the mantra, you need volunteers. And now we're to an interesting point where, because whether it's the economy, whether it's people, whatever the case may be, that now you have emergency service organizations that are having problems finding people that, career people.
Yeah.
That wanna be firefighters, that wanna be EMT, that wanna be police officers. It's at a critical point, I don't know if you guys saw the Connecticut, the CT Insider and the Journal Enquirer did a whole story on it last week. About, you have these animals organizations, like Verde Animals, in our case, you can go to Target right now in Killingly and make $19.50 an hour full clothes.
Yeah.
We don't pay people $19.50 to start as an EMT.
Which is a lot more dangerous, a lot
So
more.
you have the problem of getting people that wanna get into this industry, getting them in and paying them to get them to come in, and then paying them to retain them to stay in the industry.
Yeah.
And it's not good, and there's been numerous, legislative attempts to have studies and all kinds of things at the state to try to address it, but it's at a critical point, and people, ambulance is now in other parts of the state can't staff their ambulances because they can't find not volunteers, but career people to do the job. And, so when you're competing with, I don't mean to pick on Target, when Target's paying someone $19.50, $20 an hour to go full clothes, are they gonna wanna come and work and deal with the things that we deal with on a daily basis, see what we see on a daily basis for less money? Probably
Not
not,
likely.
we don't wanna do it, but it's EMS, it's fire, it's law enforcement, they're all in the same boat.
Yeah, they are.
It's getting tough, and for us as a small town, for us to come and say, hey, year after year, you gotta bump the pay, you gotta bump the pay. And there's the people, the foot stompers that go and say, oh my God, we can't do that, you're paying them too much. Well, okay, but.
So
You're not
a
gonna
good
have to.
example, Hartford, City of Hartford advertised yesterday for, 2 building inspector positions. Obviously, you have to have some training and certification, but a building inspector certification is not, it's not like it's a master's degree compared to being a firefighter or something like that. It's a professional, training and a professional certification, but it's available and people can attain it. And there are plenty of people in the industry, they're advertising not for the boss building official, but a building official to work in the office. 96 to 108 is the salary. $5,000 signing bonus. After you stay there 30 days, and then every 6 months, $5,000 if you stay through July of 2026.
Wow.
So that's another $10,000 a year. And they're having trouble getting applicants.
There's gotta be a reason.
Sad.
Just let me tell myself that.
I'm sure there are reasons.
And I
There
think
are
it's
reasons.
just a-
There are reasons, but that goes to the point. It is hard, and that's part of the reason all the prices are going up, because the salaries are going up.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, well, you're always, that's circular. It's
Right, it
always-
chases itself,
Right,
right.
yeah, it's.
So how do we apply this in Wellington? How do we apply this here?
Well, but, I mean. I'd also like to work at a nice facility. So if you have a facility that isn't
Absolutely.
nice,
Right.
then people are
Yeah,
gonna, well,
people-
okay, I'd like to do it, but I think. I'll
People
go-
don't wanna be
I'll go do
eating
it
their
somewhere
dinner.
else. Right.
People don't wanna eat their dinner at the table right behind the ambulance. It's
Right.
covered with soot from the trucks starting.
Yeah. So
Right.
Absolutely.
That's
You may not wanna
understandable.
sleep right next to the other person that you don't know that well.
Absolutely.
I mean,
Yeah.
I would like.
You don't wanna get to know them that
Yeah,
well.
it happens. I mean, yeah.
Like staff retention, hiring people, you're touring the
Yes.
facility, like,
Well,
I mean,
It's funny to say that because we, back in, Ronald tested this. When I first became chief and took over from you, we resigned ourselves to the fact that we are a stepping stone. We
right,
had people that came in, we knew they wanted to be a career firefighter somewhere else, they want to do this the rest of their life, you're not gonna do it, wanting to make it $19 an hour. We brought so many people in, we have had more people leave and go on to wonderful careers based on the foundation we gave them, we were comfortable with it. We knew they weren't gonna stay, but we're gonna take them and use them for our benefit while they're here. We've had deputy chiefs in East Hartford, all over the place that have come, started here, but we don't want to leave it. How do you get to the point where we don't want you to leave? We want you to stay here. So.
And the town office building has the same problem.
Sure.
Follow along what's gone on the last few years
Yeah.
of the turnover of staff that you've had upstairs. For similar things, there was limited hours, limited pay, in a small town and, they get their certifications and experience and they go to somewhere bigger.
It's very hard to, I know that there's a cost to that turnover. but it's hard to find what that cost is.
Yeah, no, we don't.
There's no way to measure it really, but you just know that, if good people are leaving. That's sad, there's a cost associated with that.
I mean,
That's hard to.
To quote one of our part-timers that was working some part on a part-time basis. Quote, I am not gonna sleep in a camper.
Yeah.
That's the impression he gives, they're like, what kind of organization is this? You're gonna sleep in a camper.
Right.
And so he doesn't. He ends up overtime somewhere else for a lot more money.
I have a question for the group, with respect to volunteers. How much training is mandated beyond our control as a local fire department?
Well,
To be what I say, a contributing member of the organization, meaning you're an interior firefighter, you're EMT, working independently in the back of the ambulance, a fully capable firefighter EMT. How much of it is mandated?
How much is mandated by
Most
state
all of it.
regulations?
Almost all of it.
it's 100 and, what is EMT class now, 160?
60 hour.
160 hours. So you consider that if people are working a job, they gotta find 160 hours on top of their work.
That's where I was
To get-
going with this,
right.
right, as far as with respect to why we can't get volunteers.
Yes,
That is a
part of the
big
difficulty.
part of it, it's gotta
Yes.
be,
And one of the things that we did.
and we don't control that requirement for training.
Oh, you guys did, we did, what, maybe 10 years ago, I guess, it was after I left as chief. That we actually required some, like, new people that came in, it's like, I wanna take this one class, I wanna take that class, I wanna take that class. Well, we're conscious of the fact that they're gonna take the class, get their certifications and leave, like, you know what? You pay for the class, you pass it, you stay for so many months, then we'll give you your money back.
That makes sense.
Because we're getting burned,
That's
Yeah.
an incentive.
you know?
So right
Do
now,
we-
it's 50/50. It's 50/50. You pony up 50% of the cost of the class up front. You take the class, you pass it. It's certified, you get certified to ride in the back of the ambulance. And then we'll start reimbursing you your money.
Now, there are towns that, even on the career side, if you get hired as a career firefighter, they're gonna send you to the fire academy. That's thousands and thousands of dollars. If they leave within 1 year, they're gonna pay that money back.
That's why a lot of people now are ponying up the money, they're sending themselves to the fire academy, doing it on their own. So that they are a more desirable candidate, they can pick and choose their
It's like-
destination.
yeah, it's like you got your
It's
car.
their ticket to ride,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, that
and
almost
so
makes
it's also 16 weeks,
sense. Wow. Huh.
living at the fire academy.
But to answer your question, it's 99% of it.
Okay.
Without a doubt.
So, I mean, that's the issue that I see with respect to getting volunteers.
Yeah, I should finish my statement. They're not bad requirements. We want people. to-
I'm not
Very well
suggesting, I'm not
Yeah.
suggesting
They're-
they're bad.
They're all
But
good.
they're part of the challenge.
Absolutely.
That's part of the challenge.
Yeah, sure. Because what I see is ultimately a core group of paid firefighters and EMTs, both departments.
It seems that's how it's going.
It's the only way you're gonna staff it,
Well, it's a matter of balancing.
and then you gotta keep them.
It's balancing what your staffing requirements are based on the past calls for service and call for service types, number one. Number two, it's paying them to retain them.
Mhm.
And number three, it's convincing the people that vote that this is your expectation of service. If this is what you want, it's not free. You're not gonna have a 100% volunteer organization with an expectation that you're gonna have the animals to your house everywhere in Wellington in 5 minutes. It's not realistic, it's not going to happen.
That's
If
the
that's what you
last,
want, it costs something for that.
it's the last service in the community that's provided by volunteers that is considered a basic core requirement of the community. Everyone considers your community has gotta provide you fire protection. And it is the last, you used to be able to have essentially like, almost like volunteer police forces with constables and all this other stuff. This is the last, and it's running out of steam to some extent as a volunteer function.
If not here, it's statewide, it's region-wide, it's nationwide.
I remember calls years ago, crashed at 32 and 74. We had 28 people show up, just from Wellington one. 28 people showed up for that accident from one department. Now, I'm not surprised if we get two.
You and I didn't try to turn the role over by ourselves one day. That's what happened.
Yeah.
And, so what we can accomplish in the field is now limited by manpower.
Yes. there's a
So
direct-
it is, the
That's-
trucks
that's
aren't
the
the
best way.
issue, the call volume's not the issue, the type of calls isn't the issue. Is how many qualified people can we muster up to show up on scene and take
Be
care of
effective.
business?
And be effective on based on what you're presented with. Correct.
So with that, with our charge, then I'm hearing over and over again that any facility improvement have to have accommodations for full-time staff.
Well, you're
That
design,
in a-
when you think about a fire.
In a reasonable living arrangement.
You're thinking about a 50 to 100 year building. Minimum.
Yeah.
That's what you designed to. That's just the way it is. And if you don't, you're throwing good money after bad.
Yeah, because the building that we started with tonight, you said was built in 62, 3? Okay, so it's 60+ years old now. Willington Hill was 1954. So that building is 70+ years old now.
And we built a 40-year-old building that's outlived its 40 years.
Yeah, right, yeah, okay. All right,
Right, so this is the challenge, not just accommodating the here and now, but trying to do the best job envisioning the future.
so.
And it, the toughest part, Andy, is when you sit down and you do what you call a programmatic study, or you start looking at, the wants and needs of really design a modern fire department, modern building. And you have people that will look at the plan and say, oh my God, this thing's huge, you don't need all that. But the hard part, the magic is to say, yeah, but in 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years,
Right,
you probably, or you are going to need this, and this is why.
it's an investment. It
And
isn't-
that's
it isn't-
that's the tough
So
part.
will you get to the end of the bond? Will you get to the end of the bond even at, say the bond's 20 years, will you get to the end of the bond and you're already stripped out
Obsolete,
the
yeah, yeah.
obsolete?
Yeah,
Or can you get 10 years past the bond before you get obsolete? Ideally, we wanna get to 50 years or 100 years, right? Because you don't wanna be going back for another bond,
No, you don't.
right?
And we've learned
You
from,
want to at least have everyone forget about the bond you paid off 20 years ago, right?
not that it was a mistake, but I mean, if you could go back, Ronnie, if you go back in 1980 and sit there and look at the plans like Myers and go, no way. Absolutely not, it's the dumbest thing we could do. No, we know we're gonna have to have more people, but it's just, you don't think about that stuff, you
It's
have
hard
to
to.
today,
It's very
you
hard.
have to do it.
Okay, so we've been, we just kind of discussed walkthrough observations, I'm sure there'll be more, anything that comes to mind, feel free to, we'll get that in and we'll put this down to old business so we can keep adding to it. I wanna move along, so update, I guess, Peter and Ralph went and did a brief inspection on the drainage at,
I ran the robot up the culvert. The reinforced concrete pipe, I got up about 102 feet. And there's still a lot more. But once you got to about the 75 to 80, the foundation drain comes in at the 75-foot mark from the outlet. You can see the white pipe that comes through the side of the RCP and put that in. From there to the outfall, the pipe's relatively clean. There's maybe an inch or two of gravel on top. Once you go beyond that 75 feet, once I got to 102 feet, I was starting to get a little nervous as to whether or not I had the clearance for the robot. Because it's about half full of gravel. So whenever the inlet end of that pipe was buried, I don't think it was closed off. And consequently, a lot of gravel's migrated into that. It's still in good shape, it needs a good flushing. But don't tell inland wetlands or DEP before you do it.
Well, and it continues to bring up the idea that we should find the catch basin. And get in there and see what's in there, see what's in the, is the catch basin full all the way up with gravel?
Probably.
Did you find
I
the
mean,
catch
I-
basin?
No, we couldn't go any further up the pipe.
I ran out of tape. I had 100-foot tape. And I wasn't gonna run the robot up without something to pull it back in case I had to.
How far were you from the building?
We're still,
Oh, you gotta be 100 feet
did
from
he
the
build
building.
the pavement?
He didn't, just a hammer mark.
Okay, I'll have to go down there with some spray paint. We're probably 15 to 20 feet short of the building, but
Yeah.
it's still way south of the building.
Oh, that's true, yes. Yeah, because it's going towards the propane tank. That pipe
Yeah,
aims
actually,
towards
it's a
the
little bit
propane.
south of the
Yeah.
propane tank, according to this map. But it is there, I mean, that pipe is there, I just couldn't find a head wall with the tree trunks and what have you that got dumped on top of it.
And according to the plan, that pipe is the outflow from the catch basin. Right?
No, it was the outflow from what was called the sedimentation basin at the end of Trask.
So the catch basin must go into the sedimentation basin and then,
Which was all filled in and leveled off for parking. So I think
it's under there somewhere.
it's under there somewhere, but I think it just got buried. But it's something that pipe could come in handy, because whatever is done down there, you're gonna have, if you're gonna build anything, you're gonna have to have, a stormwater management plan for it. And that may be very easy to utilize that pipe for it.
Looks ideal.
And someone else, I mean, with different equipment, that could almost be all backed out, right? But
Well, if I could get a 250-foot tape, I'll run the robot up even farther.
I think I have a 350.
I got a 300.
But I just wanted something,
Right,
if I got stuck, I could pull it back. I could turn it around in where the gravel was pretty shallow.
remember when we walk outside, I've got a long tape in my truck, I don't remember what.
And
it
just
is.
kind of highlights to the need to obtain ownership of the state portion. And when I talked with Representative Nuccio, I think I sent, you also sent me a text or email.
Okay.
The town needs to initiate, she has to take it to the legislature to transfer the property to us.
Okay.
That'll happen in the fall.
Alright.
But we just need I don't think I got to you, but we need something from the town saying we want this.
All right, let me, I'll introduce it at the next
A
meeting.
letter, on town letterhead and so forth.
Probably about 10 years ago, state DOT did approach the town wanting to get rid of it at a very, like, $3,000 or, almost nothing for money. But the town looked at it and go, well, what do we need it for? What positive, why would we acquire this, for what purpose? Well, now, 10 years later.
No,
You
makes
say
sense.
that was a poor planning answer.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Any idea who they talked to, or?
No, I heard from the selectman's office.
Oh, okay. Wonder if there's any documentation of that.
Was how that got repaid.
Probably no
right?
personnel left at this DOT that were required anyway.
Before in the town hall.
What got repaid, Peter?
Is that?
You said that's how it got repaid. What got repaid?
I thought that front piece was repaid by DOT because the water was backing.
No,
up.
they refused.
They refused.
I spoke to the traffic engineer, the DOT engineer involved with that and said, hey, your road, it's your property, because everything west of the island belongs to the state. We have it on the maps and surveys and all that. They said, your pothole is in your land. No, that's Trask Road, it's not our land. And absolutely refused.
Yeah.
So the town had to take care of fixing that mega pothole at the end of the road there.
Yeah.
Even though it was on state property. Just they denied it.
I remember getting that hole quite a bit.
What I will do
The
is,
state doesn't pay anything.
I have the original drawings for the realignment of 32. 1960 something drawings.
Can the town, do eminent domain against the state?
That
We'll
was
just say the state's refused to maintain it, it's ours now.
All right, well, what I was gonna suggest to do
Would make the newspaper at least.
is highlight the area that we'd like to get back from the DOT. And to move Trask Road to the south side of that gully is going to impact the property owner on the corner.
Why do we have to move to the south side of the gully?
Well, no, there's some distinct advantages to diverting Trask to come down and intersect 32 separate from the firehouse, so you don't have traffic going through the firehouse.
Oh, actually, you're saying.
And then you have a second entrance from Trask to the fire department property as well as from 32. So I can see that really enhancing that property for fire department use.
So this sounds like we're kind of now drifting into some future planning. Just so,
Spitballing ideas, that's all.
so how do we get to the next step on the drainage? Whatever the property gets used for,
Excellent question.
whatever the property gets used for, we're eventually gonna get more of that pipe cleaned out. And if we, in the meantime, can get the pipe cleaned out, at least we can stop water coming through the floor
Yes.
in the meantime.
That is a great point, Mike.
Well, we can do something there, we can at least tap into where that catch basin is, put a French drain in at the foot of the hill. So
Not
separate from the
to,
foundation.
not to deny the value of that, but I'm trying to get something more basic than that. When do we get to the point where we dig up the catch basin and we see if it's full of gravel and see if we can solve some of our problems that is very minimal cost to solve some of our problems for temporary? When do we get to the point where?
For $500, I
we're-
gotta
we're-
come out and locate that on the ground force.
Right, we're a year and 3 months into knowing we have a drainage problem.
So $500 will get us the other end of the pipe, basically. Which is what we need to
They'll
find.
map it on the surface for us.
Okay.
And this is not this is similar to a septic guy, but he does any kind of underground.
So we need to get to the point where we're gonna start making some recommendations to the board of selectmen if we wanna access some money.
Well, we'll start right away. Oh, just ask.
Yeah.
Because
I don't know how to ask.
money will be
but
available
I'll
July
learn how to ask.
first.
The budget passed, so now.
Right, money will be available July first, we'll have to get a process going.
Well, I'll reach out to this guy and get a proposal from him.
Alright. Yeah, that'd be great.
And then can they jet that line at the same time?
I'm
Or
sorry,
can they run a jetter up from down below to pull some of that gravel back out?
he's just gonna trace the.
Right, but my point is, take it to the next step, okay, he traced it, we know it's half full of gravel. Can we send a jetter up from the bottom and get that gravel out of there?
It wouldn't be your guy, though. Maybe
No,
not that guy.
wouldn't be this guy.
Could it be?
Well, Troy had, I think it was Putnam Public Works came in.
It was,
Public
they did a
sewer.
jetter, that's right.
Yeah, they got a big jet.
And they couldn't get it up top because the pipes are too small and curvy and
Yeah.
completely filled. But now that we know kind of where the bottom is, how big is that pipe, Ralph?
I think it's supposed to be 24 inch, I didn't know.
Yeah.
So it's
It's
a
good
fair-
size.
it's a fair size pipe, that
Yeah.
they could get their equipment up, and even if they end up running into a dead end, at least you know where it is at that point. Between the generator and the locator, and know, here's the spot to dig, it's completely.
But I my ignorance of it,
But
if
if
find
we
the
can-
other end,
If we can find the inlet out,
find the other end and dig
we
it up,
can flush it ourselves.
couldn't you have a training exercise and empty a couple of.
Regardless, at least then we know where it is, and we know what condition it's in.
That's right.
Then we can have a conversation about how to move what's next, because right now we still have this big speculation on the parking lot.
I got it. Yeah, it's a
You
big
know?
mystery of
And
that.
keep in mind the leach fields out there too.
Okay, alright, well,
So which is
so,
why we don't wanna just go digging all over the place willy-nilly.
well,
No,
tomorrow's
no.
Friday, but Monday I'll, see if we can get something on while we have. It's that night, but, well, we can get it on the agenda anyway. 2:30.
So our goal at least would be that our. Do we want to be for our next meeting that we have a proposal to then recommend, or do we actually want to recommend tonight that we ask the selectmen to start?
I
the
would like to hear a
funding
motion that we recommend that we introduce it on the Monday night BOS meeting. That
So,
we want
We're gonna
approximately
ask
five,
for.
we're gonna ask for around $500, like a warning order. We're gonna be asking for this. We're gonna come up with a formal proposal. That way there's no surprises and everybody doesn't freak out.
Right, so the process, if I think I'm correct, the process would be, when we're ready to actually ask for money, is we're gonna send a recommendation to the board of selectmen. The board of selectmen are gonna debate.
Yep.
If they approve that, then they have to request the board of finance.
Correct.
Then the board of finance requests back to the board of selectmen to call a town meeting, right?
Well, that's after that.
Well, not for $500, I'm sorry. Yep, you're right, I'm stuck on process. Right.
Well, that's all right. I mean, that's the
No,
process.
so you're right, in that case, it just goes back to the board of finance
Yep,
to allocate
the money.
the money.
Andy, why would,
Wasn't there money?
why would you just have, let Public Works take have them take care of the project in concert with Ralph? Let the $500 come out of their budget to go do what they gotta do, and if that does be reimbursement, so be it.
That's a
It's,
great,
it's gonna take months, that process is gonna take months,
That's why I'm trying to.
just have them take out the Public
I'll
Works
propose,
budget. and-
I'll propose that.
I mean, if the worst case there, I think Wellington one, it went to $250 each to get it done.
Well,
God,
we,
God, man.
I think,
$20
we
bill,
reimburse it back out of the money that's
There you
available
go.
for this.
Yeah, no, the money's available, so no, I think,
But let's try to avoid
That's a-
multiple meetings
yeah.
and justify why it's.
So I like that.
$100.
I think, yeah,
It's $500, just let, was it Troy, let Troy do it.
yeah, I think.
So
that-
what you have, so then what we have to do is recommend to the first selectman that he have Public Works do this.
Yes.
Locate the pipe and.
Yeah.
Locate the pipe, and if they can locate the pipe, and if they can excavate out the catch basin, have
Yep,
them
yep.
excavate out the catch
Based
basin.
on our pro bono consultant's recommendation there.
So here's a note.
That's good, that's good.
The one cost involved is the guy with the locator, or runs the
Right,
bucket up below and holds his little
He
thing.
would be.
Yeah,
That's something Public Works doesn't have.
I wouldn't be surprised if
That's
Troy
fine.
knows.
But that's the $500 we'll pay for
Yeah,
that part of
Right,
it.
yeah, we reimburse it back to Public Works.
Yeah, and maybe the town has used a
Well, he's.
locator before, you know, that they might have somebody on
Yeah.
their team, doesn't matter.
This
Yeah,
is, this is a little bit beyond most septic.
Yeah, that's fine, that's good advice, no, that's a good idea, Tyler. So anyway, that'll happen on Monday. And then I'll also bring up about how we go about asking the state that, or notifying the state in an official capacity from the Board of Selectmen that we wanna purchase the proproperty,
Yeah, something that's.
which has.
You wanna acquire.
I'll say,
Yeah. Yeah.
I wrote acquire down on Monday.
Didn't seem to think it'd be any issue, other than.
No, but you need the formal request.
You do, but it's also time consuming, so I suggested to her some sort of letter of intent that they are gonna convey it to us, so we don't have to wait till these
That's good.
legislators
Right.
move in their tediously slow mode.
Does it go to the legislature?
It does.
Okay.
Yeah, any change in state property eventually gets approved at the legislature,
Okay,
even if it's
so-
in a long list and they just say, yes, we agree.
So can
It's
we,
all-
can
There's
we,
some other committee it has to go through too.
Oh, yeah.
So maybe in your request, ask for an LOI that would convey this faster to us, so we can get working.
Yeah.
And she seemed amenable to that.
and would it just be Tammy or would it be also Jeff Gordon?
You can see some Jeff, so we know, But Tammy seemed to be,
But I will mark up the 1960 drawing.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Because farther south, I've got a good idea what the right of way width is.
Hmm.
And if we just continue that parallel to 32, and anything on the east side of that goes back to the town hall.
Okay. Good stuff. Old business, I started horsing around with some public communication, but I kinda got bogged down and kind of done anything. I think we're continuing to do an ongoing analysis of current and future emergency service, fire department facilities,
Hang on. That, the email from Mike D'Amato,
yes,
that's in that category, right?
sure.
Do you have it? Or do you want me to get?
But well, the high level was just his, type, site, whatever he calls himself.
Yeah.
Is that the one we're talking about?
Yeah, do you want me to, I can, I
So
have,
Mike D'Amato has a consulting company, and he said that he feels confident that he could offer a fairly comprehensive analysis, that they have access to a lot of the data that the survey that Mike showed us earlier, the analysis. And
where the firehouse is.
station location stuff.
yeah, station location study, Mike was indicating that he'd be more than willing to talk to us about what his firm could offer for a lot less money.
Do you want me to read his email?
I do.
Okay. Hi, Andy. I spoke with Mike McCoo earlier today. He had called me to find out what the station location study included for the
Okay.
scope of work. That's how I got involved. I spoke to Mike McCoo today regarding a suggestion I had for the building committee. I know the group's still contemplating the idea of a more comprehensive study, but I do think if the committee's interested, we can help with some of the GIS-based analysis that could be helpful. My firm has someone we use for contract GIS work. I think we could prepare a call location analysis, drive time analysis, and perhaps a station coverage map prepared pretty easily and cheaply. I'd guess under $1,000 total if the committee thought it would be helpful. Mike M can speak to this a bit more during your meeting on Thursday, but I wanted to throw it out there and offer it as an option that would be useful. So that basically summarizes it, and all he's saying is he thinks they can do the first couple levels of GIS analysis. If they have the call data, they have people who just crunch this kind of stuff all day long. They take the call data, they plot it, and they do it's either the going outward from your locations to the calls, or the coming in, looking at where the calls are and what's the distance coming in. They could do, you know, forward or reverse, basically. And so he wanted to throw that out as a
Sure.
possibility, as an interim idea. It's cheaper than the $30,000 study. It doesn't provide any of the sort of fire service analysis that study might, or none of the people are fire service people, but they would be able to do the basic data
The basic
analysis.
data. Sure.
Right, and for obviously a very inexpensive amount, and actually an amount that doesn't require like town meetings and all that kind of stuff.
Would the committee agree that we'd be willing to listen to him? At least. if he
I would think, but I have a question.
Input's valuable.
Question, Mike, so you had mentioned, and I think Peter mentioned that those $30,000 studies were a prerequisite for federal funding. Am I remember
Station
that
location
correctly?
study is usually a grant requirement and is usually a design requirement when you go to design.
So,
But this doesn't
Would
prevent
this-
us from doing that.
would this give us that same level of documentation?
No, it would give you the first layer. It would give you the data analysis. The first layer or two, the first groupings of data analysis that this committee could use to say, all right, we've learned something. And it might drive this committee to say, well, we don't need the station location study, or we do need the station location study.
Okay.
And
Makes
then
sense.
it would do some of the work the station location study would have done.
Mhm.
Yes. And then the station location study would have a little more depth. It would have a format that's accepted by the federal government for the grants, yada, yada, yada.
And you were concerned
And it
about
would also have
about
fire
having it
service
be
people.
totally objective without any bias, would this do that?
Well, it's,
No,
what's
This
that?
is just,
still gonna come from me.
Yeah.
Well, the data comes from Tyler no matter what, and I was not accusing Tyler of bias. What I'm saying was
Different outside perspective,
Right.
grant.
insulate ourselves
No
as
matter who
much.
it is, they gotta go through me. No matter-
but he's gonna make it pretty. See, that's the, one thing I'm sort of intrigued by this, because I think sooner or later, as we want to present whatever what we're doing here to the public, visuals like that really help illustrate. Like I was saying, I'd like to take pictures of the firehouses to show, their best qualities, but also what the needs are. And then here's a study of where everything is, and you put that on some easels and decent whiteboards, and I know that's the kind of thing that Mike can do.
Well, you'll get a huge map.
Yeah, right, you get a nice big map.
And
You can put it
Tyler,
out
if you
there.
want, we could put like an asterisk in there and then a line at the bottom says, but regardless, this data came from Tyler, so.
It's gotta be bullshit.
It's all suspect.
Nobody believes
Gotta
that,
be.
no one believes that. But, I mean, I'd say having an agenda item at a town meeting is just information. And I really have the idea that town meetings can be. I thought the last one was actually kind of good about the budget, it's a fairly good conversation, a lot of people stood up and talked.
The more
I think town
information
meetings
you
should be more like
The
that.
more information you
They should
provide,
just be,
the visual.
Here's a presentation, here's what's going on, we're not asking for anything. We're telling you what's going on. The ask is gonna come, but it won't come that night. But,
Right.
and so I kinda like that, and Mike's a good guy, I like working with him. So I'll ask him if he would be willing to come here and kind of show what he could. do.
Yeah, and ask him to bring a proposal.
Yeah,
So
bring
that
a
we-
proposal.
Because if we agree that we like the proposal, then we would want a
Yeah.
piece of paper to be sending up
Yep.
through to the Board of Selectmen to get approved.
And, Tyler can make, make 42,000 calls right in Wellington.
Don't know about that.
Kidding. Alright, so that's good, I'm glad you brought that up.
So you have that in your to-dos to,
I have it in
To
mind
talk
to
to
do, to
Mike.
talk to Mike, cause I still
Okay.
wanna hammer him again on, still a little vague on what we have to do. To put an accessory dwelling unit down there, and I know he said. Just go to the.
ZBA.
ZBA. But I kinda think there's more to the story, it just didn't, somehow, it just seemed too easily dismissed, maybe he's just trying to get rid of it, I don't know. Anyway, and then,
No, I think that Mike's pretty clear.
no,
Under zoning regulations, we can't do it,
right.
period.
Right.
But ZBA can bend those.
Yeah, but then he talked something about like temporary housing for fires and stuff. And it is taking long, cause I said, but it can take months and months to get windows and. Like, so, yeah, 30-day temporary, I mean, it could take you years to get all the stuff, so that 30 days can't be valid anymore. And then he goes, well, yeah, and then we got digressed a bit, so. I wanna
No,
flesh
and
that
I
out.
think, I believe that the right process, because there was a lot of discussion about this with the property at 25 Old Farms Road.
Mhm,
Because of changing from being the religious use, which has different rules.
yes,
And I believe the way the fire department had to do it. To get to the point of going to the ZBA was they basically had to come to the zoning
Yeah.
office first and say, we wanna do this. The zoning office says, no, you can't, and
Can't.
here's the regulation.
Right.
And that allows us to now appeal it.
right, and then
You have nothing to
There's
appeal
nothing
until
to
someone
appeal.
tells you no.
Right, that's right.
So
Okay,
you go in and you ask, hey, can I do this?
alright,
They say no,
alright,
this is the regulation, then you send that and your application to the ZBA.
so I'll
You might
confirm.
still be able to go directly to CBA if you can lift out of the zoning regulations what prevents you from doing what you wanna do. I don't think you've got to go through that step of being denied by the office.
That's kind of,
When the regulations are clear that this is,
yeah,
this is gonna be.
that's still on my radar, so I'll do that. Plus I,
Okay.
And you and I have a little bit of experience with zoning
A little bit.
regulations.
plus I
Okay.
owe the town $93 because I built a wood shed, so. I have to pay for myself.
Oh, you didn't get one?
No, I got
Say
one,
that on
I was
record.
approved, but now I got.
I thought you were paying after you built it.
He's asking for forgiveness.
Yes.
I got approved,
Hanging out with my dad.
I'm glad it's easier that way.
I got approved, but now I gotta pay. And
You
I
got,
tried to pay
you got a
online, it
Sunday
didn't
permit.
work. I couldn't pay online, anyway. All right, so that's old business.
Is that, I thought, the temporary housing was
Well,
a business
we-
also?
Yeah.
No,
it
I
is.
guess, well, yeah, the prerequisite is to make sure. How do we do that within the regulatory environment that we're in? And then,
Yes, but we were getting pricing in between.
yeah,
Do you have
well,
something to
yeah,
share?
but the budget wasn't passed, so it was like squishy. All right, so I guess we gotta have a proposal for that.
Well, we were supposed to be pursuing pricing, and I
I'm not
finally got a
pursuing-
price from somebody.
Okay, good, so let's talk to me about price. What do you got?
The, I think it's Champion Homes.
Yep.
They were the ones that had the 2-bedroom, 2-bath trailer on special mobile home, the one that a few of us saw online. It's like 44,000 some odd, whatever dollars, basically 45 grand. That trailer, I talked to their office, that trailer is normally 62,000. It's on special right now. At the end of the day on Monday, because it's the new half of the year, that trailer goes off special and new one goes on special. It might be that same one again,
Okay,
but they believe it's a different one that's going, they're waiting for the factory to tell
all right,
them. And they believe it's going to be a 2-bedroom, 1-bath trailer. Regardless, there's gonna be one on special with 2 bedrooms, either the current one or the other one.
okay,
And so if we called them back by Monday afternoon, which obviously is very optimistic on her part.
pretty optimistic.
She said, if you call me by Monday afternoon and tell me you're taking that trailer, we can lock that price.
Wow,
For the purposes of discussion, that's the $45,000 for the trailer.
yep,
$7,000 to deliver it from the factory in Pennsylvania to here. 2 to 3 months, because they don't start building it until you order it.
Yep.
So it would be here at $52,000. And then you have to pay a local contractor. They have local contractors set up who do the actual parking of it and hooking up the sewer line and the electric and all that stuff. And so I called, she said, if you want that information after you talk to your committee, I said, no, I want the information now.
yeah, right,
I called the guy, he hasn't called me back yet, so I don't have a number yet for that.
local is local.
It was a Connecticut phone number,
Okay,
so it's an 860 phone number, so it's eastern-ish Connecticut.
okay,
Um,
all right.
so
What do
I'm
you-
waiting to
what
hear
that's like
back,
10, 12, maybe?
but, yeah, I don't know, $10,000 to $15,000 with electric and sewer, I don't know. So we're $70,000.
Was 2 bedrooms, I mean,
That
was 2 bathrooms part of the list of needs/wants, or was it 1
I think it
bathroom?
was a lot.
It was 2 bedrooms,
Had
Two
two
bedroom was a need.
Two bedrooms in need,
maybe
one
the
bed.
1 bathroom one's going on sale next.
Yes, fine.
Yeah, so maybe that one's gonna be a couple grand cheaper because it's 1 bathroom instead of 2, I don't know.
All right,
So that gives us, at least now we have an order of magnitude number, is about 70 grand done.
Yep.
which is cheaper than our very wild guess of $100,000 to do that interior renovation.
Sure.
Which was, you know,
I think we all understand that that could be there for quite
Right.
some time, it could be years, it wouldn't be decades, but it could be.
Yeah.
Years. While all the rest of it settles down, alright, that's good.
and as soon as I hear from the contractor that does the install, I'll get an order of magnitude price from him.
Alright,
And then our next meeting, we can narrow it down a little bit, but let's just say budgetary wise, we're talking about $70,000-ish.
alright, I'll make a motion then, I make a motion that we. Accept. Mr. McCoo's analysis of the available homes and the Champion Homes. It's a name brand, they've been around for a long time. And that we do again, a preliminary. Information to the Board of Selectmen, that this is what the committee is recommending. Total cost about $70,000 to be installed, plus or minus 15%. That's my
Second.
motion. I need a second.
Okay, I'll second.
Okay. All in favor?
I,
Opposed, abstentions? Awesome. Cool. Very good. That's an action item.
What, did we just actually take an action?
Oh, stop.
How many months is it?
We had. A few weeks ago.
Yeah,
I'm not picking on you, Andy, I'm picking on us, okay?
okay. No, that's good. Yeah, well, it takes a lot of conversation.
I'm laughing with us.
Yeah, yeah, okay. So, action items then, we have we can talk about. Pricing on that, we've got something pretty well nailed down, and I think that that would be agreeable, I would. Again, I believe just in, the more communication, the better, so you just throw that out there.
Will it have to go out to bid?
It'll have to go out to bid unless one of them is on a buying consortium like Sourcewell or, one of those.
I
In
don't
which
know
case we
those
could use the
things.
buying consortium in place of 3 bids.
Alright. Well, this is our. Maybe I won't even mention the name brand, I'll just say this is.
Based
what
on how
we're
hard it
looking
was
at.
to get prices, I don't think it's gonna be hard to do a bidding process because we could put a spec out to bid and. I think we're gonna be lucky to get 2 prices.
Yeah.
I mean, Alex and I, Chief Moore and I have been trying
Yeah,
for
yeah,
a month to
Yeah,
get prices on
that's fine.
things. He's been calling all those, the ones that do the house fire trailers, and all they can say is, who's the insurance company you're working with?
Yeah.
We wanna bill your insurance company.
Yeah.
So they're just looking to
yeah,
put the screws to
I
the
can't
insurance
imagine
company.
anybody's on state contract or federal contract for a mobile home like that.
Yeah, that didn't,
Avoiding
uh,
intended the
and the,
purpose.
Yeah.
when we poked at it, there wasn't a whole lot of,
Yeah.
Wasn't a lot of feedback from the state about availability. Stuff through that direction, alright, that's good. And then,
Just a question, Andy, when we do this, if we do this, can we offset that cost with the existing trailer that we won't need anymore?
Well, it belongs to the town, so we'd have to ask the selectmen. We could make a recommendation to the selectmen that they sell the current trailer and put that money back into the
Let's
budget.
include that in our
Yeah, yeah.
wish list here, so.
certainly put it out there, absolutely. That was,
Yeah, we have to
Once-
get further along in this, but I think that would be,
that the new temporary structure would. Would eliminate the need for the trailer, which then could be sold, and the recommendation is it's sold around February or March, so you get the most. You don't wanna
Sell
sell
it next
trailers in
spring.
the winter.
yeah, cause this one's not gonna be set up till just about coming into winter. You don't wanna try to sell that
You don't
one
wanna
coming
try to
into
sell
winter, cause it'll lose like 20% of its value.
Absolutely.
So you winterize it, store it till the spring, and you sell it in the spring.
Alright,
We did pay for them, sure.
14 or something, yeah, so you'll probably get 10 back out of it or something like that, 9 or 10, that's still,
you never know.
it's a chunk.
It's
Something's better than nothing.
Absolutely, alright, no present to speak, right, everybody here is part of the committee and there's nobody online that I see. I didn't get any correspondence in particular that I saw, except what Mike read into the minutes. Next meeting, place time, 11 July 2024, right here, sound good? That's what I think.
I'm gonna remember that here.
What's it
Here.
I have this July 11th. Is that the second
The second.
Second
11
Thursday will be
July.
July 11th.
Yes.
Yes.
And I got 2024, I didn't put 2023. And on action items we already discussed. All right. Is there anything else we need to cover?
Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank
The
you.
meeting is adjourned at 8:50 PM.
All right. And I.